Have you ever found yourself apologizing to someone right after they insulted you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it sounds completely absurd when you say it out loud. Like, why would you do that?
Right, exactly.
But if you were just a naturally giving, empathetic person, chances are you've done exactly that. You've probably smoothed over a cruel comment, swallowed your own hurt feelings, and just taken the blame just to keep the peace.
It is remarkably common. And, well, it points to a very uncomfortable truth, really. The exact qualities that make you a wonderful friend or partner, your patience, your empathy, your willingness to forgive.
Yeah.
Those are the exact same qualities that make you a prime target for people who, frankly, want to take advantage of you.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here with us. Today, we are looking at the hidden and often completely silent dynamics of disrespect in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We are tackling that incredibly frustrating question. Why do genuinely kind people so often get used? And our guides for this conversation are two fantastic companion texts.
They really are great.
Yeah, the first is an insightful guide called 15 Signs Someone Doesn't Respect You. And the second is a comprehensive premium workbook titled The Good Person's Survival Guide.
What makes these sources so vital, I think, is their framing. They don't treat kindness as a weakness or, a character flaw.
Right.
But they do ruthlessly expose it as a severe vulnerability if it's just left unguarded.
And the mission for this deep dive is to give you a complete roadmap to clarity. We want to help you recognize those really subtle boundary violations, stop second-guessing your own sanity, and ultimately reclaim your peace of mind without losing your core kindness.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even start identifying what disrespect looks like out in the wild, we have to understand the internal psychology of the person receiving it. Like, why are good people usually the absolute last ones to realize they're being taken advantage of?
We really have to start here to establish a foundation of understanding without blame. Because, if you're listening to this and realizing you've been used, your very first instinct is probably going to be to just beat yourself up.
Oh, totally. You think, how could I have been so stupid?
Right. How could I have been so blind? But the texts point out that missing the warning signs isn't stupidity. It's actually a predictable psychological blind spot. And it's created by how a kind person's mind operates.
It's like a combination of traits that work together against you. I mean, think about it. If your default mode is to always look for the best in people, you're constantly finding generous explanations for bad behavior. You convince yourself, they're just stressed at work or they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Now, pair that relentless optimism with an absolute dread of conflict. You've been conditioned to believe that keeping the peace is always better than rocking the boat. And that combination right there, that is a recipe for staying in bad situations way too long.
Absolutely. And when you add in the tendency to give endless second chances, you create a dynamic where the other person never actually experiences the consequences of their actions.
Wow. Yeah, they just get away with it. They do. And there's also this deeply ingrained assumption that other people share your core values. I mean, you would never intentionally use someone, so you naturally assume there must be a simple misunderstanding when someone uses you.
And hanging over all of this is the societal conditioning that self-sacrifice is, like the ultimate virtue. We praise people for putting themselves last. But the workbook has this quote that completely shatters that romanticized view.
Oh, I love this quote.
It says, every yes you give to someone else at the expense of yourself is a quiet no to your own needs.
It's so powerful. And what's fascinating here is the underlying psychological mechanism. Good people constantly project their own moral compass onto others.
Right.
It is a beautiful way to view the world, honestly. But the text asks us to face a very harsh reality. Some people aren't struggling to give you what you deserve. They simply have no intention of doing so.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. They aren't misinterpreting the rules of reciprocity. They're playing a completely different game where your kindness is viewed strictly as a resource to be consumed.
It's like driving with a filter on your windshield that only lets in the good light. You just assume everyone else on the road is following the same traffic laws of basic human decency.
That's a great way to put it.
But how do we tell the difference between someone genuinely struggling and someone just taking advantage? How do we remove that filter and shift from our internal psychology to external evidence?
Well, the source material outlines 15 signs of disrespect, but we are going to focus on the ones that fly under the radar, the ones you miss, starting with instrumental use.
Instrumental use, okay.
Right. Instrumental use is when someone only reaches out when they need something from you. Psychologists refer to this dynamic as parasocial extraction.
Parasocial extraction.
Yeah. It's a term that describes a one-sided relationship where one person is consistently extracting value, whether that's, time, money, emotional support, or labor.
While the other person is just giving and giving.
Exactly. The other person is simply investing, hoping for a genuine connection that never actually materializes.
The guide shares a perfect example of this. So there's this woman, Margaret, who is 62. She noticed that her adult son only ever called when he needed a loan or needed help moving.
Typical.
Yeah. On holidays or even her birthday, weeks would pass without a single text message. But the kicker is what happened when she finally brought it up to him. She gently mentioned feeling a bit neglected, and he immediately told her she was being too needy.
Ugh. And that response illustrates the mechanism perfectly, because when you finally point out the instrumental use, they don't apologize. Instead, they pivot to emotional invalidation.
Which is the second sign, right?
Right. They dismiss your very real feelings as an overreaction. They tell you that they're being dramatic or too sensitive. The goal here isn't just to win an argument. The goal is to make your emotional reality the problem, rather than their behavior.
Which brings us to the story of Carol. She's 58. She's at a family dinner, and her sister makes a genuinely cruel joke at her expense.
Oh, those are the worst.
Right. Everyone awkwardly laughs. And later, Carol tries to tell her sister that the comment was embarrassing and hurtful. Her sister just rolls her eyes, laughs it off, and says, "Oh my gosh, I was just joking. You've always been so thin-skinned."
Wow.
And the tragic part, Carol actually apologized. She apologized for having feelings about being insulted.
That is the ultimate triumph of emotional invalidation right there. Over time, it slowly and methodically trains you to distrust your own perceptions. You stop holding the other person accountable because you're spending all your energy questioning your own sanity.
Yeah. You think, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am making a big deal out of nothing.
Exactly. And while that's happening, you're also likely experiencing subtle contempt, which is sign number 6 in the text. This isn't the loud outward yelling that we typically associate with a toxic relationship.
Right, it's quieter.
Much quieter. It's a slightly mocking tone. It's an eye roll. It's a condescending remark disguised as helpful advice. The text actually pulls from John Gottman's famous relationship research here, noting that contempt is the single strongest predictor of relationship breakdown.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Out of all the negative behaviors, contempt is the biggest red flag.
It is. And it's important to understand why Gottman's research focuses so heavily on contempt. Anger, as unpleasant as it is, at least acknowledges the other person as an equal. You are angry because an equal is frustrating you.
That makes sense.
But contempt is entirely different. Contempt communicates superiority. It tells the other person that they are beneath consideration. Gottman actually found that being on the receiving end of chronic contempt severely degrades a person's immune system.
Wait, really? Their actual immune system?
Yes. It puts your body into a constant state of physiological stress.
Wow. So it's a physical breakdown, not just an emotional one. The guide talks about Robert, who is 67. Whenever Robert shared an idea or a story at Sunday dinners, his son-in-law would get this slight smirk, wait a beat, and say, "Well, actually," and then basically restate Robert's exact idea, just using slightly different words.
Oh, the classic, "Well, actually."
Yeah, as though he was correcting or improving it. Such a small interaction, but over years it just leaves you feeling entirely diminished.
And we really have to look at what happens when the disrespect isn't active but passive. This is the concept of invisible deprivation. It's an extreme manifestation of an anxious avoidant dynamic.
Let's break that down for a second, because the term anxious avoidant gets thrown around a lot in pop psychology.
Yeah.
How did that actually play out in real time?
Imagine a seesaw. The anxious, people-pleasing person is constantly pedaling, constantly adjusting their weight, trying to anticipate the other person's needs just to keep the relationship balanced and stable.
Okay, I can picture that.
The avoidant or disrespectful person realizes very quickly that they don't have to pedal at all. They can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride while you do all the emotional heavy lifting. Your needs go completely unmet, but because there isn't a massive explosive fight, you feel like you aren't allowed to complain about it.
Like Susan. She's 60. She had this sudden crushing realization that in 5 years of a supposed best friendship, her friend had never once asked what restaurant Susan wanted to go to.
5 years. That is incredible.
I know. Every single outing was tailored to the friend's preferences. Susan just accommodated. Wait, let me push back on this for a second. Couldn't a broken commitment or a forgotten favor or not asking about a restaurant preference, couldn't that just mean someone is incredibly busy or stressed or just a little oblivious? I mean, we are all human. We all drop the ball sometimes.
Oh, of course we drop the ball. Isolated incidents are absolutely part of being human. But the text draws a massive, bright line between a mistake and a methodology.
A mistake and a methodology. I like that.
Right. Isolated incidents are human error. Persistent patterns are behavioral data. And to tell the difference, you look for the negativity bias loop. People who are utilizing you are usually incredibly observant of your mistakes, but seemingly totally blind to your contributions.
Oh, so they are incredibly generous with their criticism, but totally silent when it comes to appreciation.
Precisely. And from a psychological standpoint, withholding appreciation isn't an accident. It is a subconscious tool for control.
Wow.
Yeah, decades of research on positive reinforcement shows that acknowledged behavior gets repeated. By deliberately withholding praise but swiftly delivering criticism, they are literally shaping your behavior to serve their comfort.
That is wild.
You end up working harder and harder, twisting yourself into knots, trying to earn an appreciation that they are deliberately keeping just out of your reach.
They're essentially using your own kindness to train you like a dog.
Yeah.
It's chilling when you see the mechanics of it laid out like that.
Right.
So once you see the pattern, once you realize that the person on the other end of the seesaw isn't peddling, the natural next question is, what do I do about it?
Exactly.
And that brings us to the architecture of boundaries.
Yeah.
And the massive, towering obstacle that stands in the way of actually setting them, which is guilt.
Right. Transitioning from simply recognizing disrespect to actively reclaiming your peace requires boundaries. But people fundamentally misunderstand what a boundary actually is.
Now, they think it's a wall.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's not an aggressive wall you build to shut people out. It's simply a clear, communicative statement of what is acceptable to you and what is not.
The workbook does an incredible job of breaking this down into 5 distinct types of boundaries, because just saying setting a boundary is way too vague. First, you have physical boundaries.
All right.
This isn't just about personal space. It's about not letting your mother-in-law just walk into your house unannounced because she has a spare key. Second, emotional boundaries. This is the ability to say, I care about you, but I cannot be the person you vent to for 3 hours every night when I'm already exhausted.
Then there are time boundaries. Kind people are notorious for letting others dictate their schedule. A time boundary is deciding that if someone shows up 45 minutes late to dinner, you don't just smile and pretend it's fine.
Oh, digital boundaries are huge right now, too.
Yes, you are not obligated to respond to a non-urgent text message at 11:30 at night just because your phone pinged. And finally, financial boundaries, which is having the courage to say, I love you, but I am not a bank.
But the reason kind people fold on every single one of those boundaries is guilt. Here's where it gets really interesting. We need to completely reframe how we think about guilt. Usually we treat guilt like a check engine light on a car.
Right, if it's flashing, we assume we did something terribly wrong.
Exactly. But in the context of setting boundaries, guilt is more like the muscle soreness you feel after going to the gym and using a muscle group you haven't activated in 20 years. It hurts, yes. But the pain doesn't mean you injured yourself.
Yeah.
It means you are finally building strength.
That is the perfect analogy. The text explicitly refers to this specific type of guilt as a withdrawal symptom from decades of people-pleasing conditioning. Since childhood, your brain has associated pleasing others with safety and survival.
So when you say no, your brain literally panics.
Yes. When you suddenly say no, your brain's alarm system goes off. You have to learn to sit with that discomfort. And the workbook offers a brilliant tool for this called the 5-minute guilt reset. It forces you to make a crucial distinction between healthy guilt and manipulated guilt.
Healthy guilt comes from genuinely harming someone. Like if I back my car into your mailbox, I should feel guilty.
I would hope so.
Right? And that guilt invites a repair. I buy you a new mailbox, and the guilt fades. Manipulated guilt, on the other hand, is manufactured entirely by someone else's disappointment. It comes simply from the fact that you didn't do what they wanted. It demands that you surrender your boundary, and it makes you feel ashamed for simply having needs in the first place.
If you're listening right now and you're feeling a knot in your stomach just thinking about telling someone no, that's the guilt trap. When you feel that wave of anxiety creeping in after setting a boundary, the text urges you to pause and ask yourself one very grounding question.
Which is,
did I actually harm this person, or did I simply not give them what they wanted?
oh, that's really good.
The vast majority of the time, it's the latter. And realizing that difference is incredibly freeing.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the blind spots, we've identified the signs, and we've dismantled the barrier of guilt. Now we have to equip you with the actual practical tools. The final section of our source material is all about taking action.
Yes, the action phase.
It exposes the manipulation tactics you will face when you finally stand up for yourself, and it gives you the exact scripts to use.
Because action is where the theoretical meets reality. The very first step is anticipating the pushback. When you set a new boundary with someone who is used to getting their way, they will not just accept it gracefully, they will deploy tactics to get the old you back.
We already discussed guilt tripping. What else do they do?
They might use gaslighting, saying things like, I never said that, or you're remembering it wrong to make you doubt your own memory. They might use the silent treatment, which is essentially withdrawing affection as an emotional punishment to starve you into compliance.
And then there's love bombing, which is incredibly tricky. It's this sudden, overwhelming flood of affection and apologies and promises that they will change.
Right, it's designed to get you to lower your defenses.
But the text reminds us of a hard truth. Genuine love is consistent. It is not a strategic deployment of affection used only when they feel they are losing control over you.
Exactly. To combat these tactics, you cannot rely on thinking on your feet. In the heat of the moment, when the adrenaline hits and the guilt spikes, your brain will freeze. You need practiced, memorized scripts.
And I have to admit, reading the scripts in the workbook is one thing, but actually saying them out loud feels terrifying. Like, the book says that when someone demands an explanation for your boundary, the script is, no is a complete sentence.
Right.
Or, my answer is still no, and I'm not going to continue this conversation while it feels like this.
Yeah.
If I said that to my mother-in-law, my heart would be pounding out of my chest.
It is terrifying at first. That's why the workbook introduces the concept of the boundary blueprint. You don't just blurt out a boundary, you architect it.
How does that work?
You write down the specific boundary, the context in which you will deliver it, the exact words you will say, the consequence if they ignore it, and crucially, the emotion you expect to feel immediately afterward.
Oh, so you plan for the guilt.
Yes. If you pre-plan to feel guilty and anxious, the arrival of those emotions is no longer a surprise that derails you. It's just part of the plan.
Let's actually role play this, because this is where people get stuck. I give the script. I say, I can't lend you the money. But what happens when the person just keeps pushing? What if they demand a reason and they start arguing my logic and they just won't drop it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to understand the worldview of manipulative people. They fundamentally view the word no as the opening offer in a negotiation.
Really? A negotiation?
Yes. They are waiting for you to offer a reason like, I can't lend you the money because I have to pay my mortgage, so they can dismantle that reason. They will say, well, you can just pay your mortgage late this month.
I've had that exact conversation.
By over-explaining, you are behaving as though you have to earn the right to have a boundary. You don't. The text emphasizes that the most powerful move is to name the tactic and stop explaining. You say, I've already given you my answer, I'm not going to keep explaining it.
You don't need the perfect words, you just need the practiced ones. And it takes repetition to rewire decades of accommodating others at your own expense. It means internalizing the fact that protecting your emotional energy isn't a luxury, it is a sacred necessity.
Completely. The workbook has a line that really anchors this entire philosophy. Peace is not a reward for good behavior. It is your birthright. You do not have to earn the right to not be exhausted. You do not have to earn the right to be treated with basic, foundational human dignity.
So what does this all mean? It means that confidence and self-respect are not magical traits that you are either born with or you aren't. They are built. They are constructed, brick by brick, through the tangible evidence of keeping promises to yourself.
Beautifully said.
Every single time you hold a boundary, every time you refuse to over-explain your no, every time you validate your own reality, instead of apologizing for having feelings, you are reinforcing the foundation of your own self-worth.
And just as importantly, you are teaching the people around you how they're required to behave if they want the privilege of having access to your life. A boundary isn't inherently the end of a relationship. In healthy dynamics, a boundary is actually the beginning of an honest one.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your own. It builds on everything we've talked about today, particularly regarding the fear that setting boundaries will cause people to leave you. If setting a healthy basic boundary causes a relationship to fall apart, perhaps it was never actually a relationship to begin with. Maybe it was just a dependency disguised as a connection. What if the space created by losing those who disrespect you is the exact necessary space required for those who will finally cherish you to enter? What if holding the door closed to the thief is exactly what allows you to finally welcome the right people into your home?